Good morning and welcome to the morning conversation with Trinity Lutheran Church. We are exploring some themes around the arts this week, and I have a wonderful artist with me. This is Pat Enos. Hi, Pat.
Hi.
Pat, how long have you been at Trinity?
A long time back. I'd say I started back in 1973, and actually it was when Pastor Coder was leading the flock at Trinity, and I had just taken a job at the elementary schools here in town,
Uh-huh.
and Merle Shields invited me to church. He was a member at Trinity, and he was the choir director, and that's Linda Boozer's dad, for those of you that maybe don't know that.
Right.
But yeah, so he invited me and I went to Trinity and I really felt a connection. And so I did, my family, Barry and I started going. That was just the two of us at the time.
Yeah.
And I joined the choir, and then we were blessed with three children,
Right.
and they were all baptized at Trinity. And I did a lot of the things that you do with when you have kids in church. We did the Sunday school, the Bible school,
Right.
the children's choirs, and so
Yeah.
on. So yeah, it was a great experience, and I'm still there today with just a little hiatus of a few years where I moved away but moved back because I missed everything and everybody.
Well, when Linda Boozer told me you were coming back, I said, "You have just made me so happy."
Oh, and I'm so happy to be back too.
Yeah. Well, it's great to have you here. And Pat, right now we've been talking about the prophet Joel, and I've been focusing on the arts this week because for me, some of the words of Joel really connect. Joel, like most of the prophets, kind of gets into the doom and gloom of what's going to happen to Israel because they're not being very good. And yet, there's always in a prophetic discourse a ray of hope. And Joel says there's going to be a time of plenty again, and there'll be a time when the young will see visions and the old will dream dreams. And when I think of visions and dreams and God speaking to us in ways that are kind of beyond words, I think of the arts. And I know you have a great story about how your faith and your art have intersected.
Yes, I do. Actually, I really believe that the arts and our human creativity comes from God. And so I really think it reflects God's purpose for us
Right.
in life. And so we need to take that and use it and carry out his work through that. So my experience started at a very young, I guess a very young age, around 11. I have a twin sister, Pam,
Right.
and we grew up in the hills of Western Pennsylvania,
Hmm.
out in the country, and we went to a little country church, small congregation, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 people. We had a traveling preacher. He would go to other churches also to preach because there weren't very many preachers out in the country. So Pam and I started taking piano lessons around third grade from the lady who played piano at our church. And I guess the preacher got wind that Pam and I were doing pretty well with piano. So he asked us if we would go help him with services at these other churches in Berlin and Garrett. And so we said, yes, we would like to do that. So we would go along and we'd play for their services. Sometimes we would sing duets, Pam and I, he had about 6 kids. So, and they were all singers. And so we would sing in groups, or we'd go Wednesday nights for prayer meeting.
Hmm.
And then we'd go Sunday nights for church services to these other congregations. Sometimes afterwards we would go to people's homes that were part of the congregation and fellowship with, some milk and cookies or whatever. So, and it really opened my eyes to the Christian community and all the love and appreciation, that is there, that they showed us, and how they welcomed us as kids
Hmm.
to be part of their services. And I really think it developed my faith at that young age.
Sure. And I think churches can squabble sometimes. We don't all agree on everything, but what you were sharing is part of what unites us, because music touches us in a way that reassures us of God's love and comforts us. And I'm sure that what you were getting reflected back to you was what you were sharing with those folks. Nobody's going to argue about a beautiful song.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that's really neat to think at that young age you too could do that. That's pretty remarkable.
It was, and it was our way of giving to them. But like you said, it also uplifted us too in our faith and our connection with God too.
Right.
So, and it's been that way throughout the years, and throughout the years at Trinity here too. I've another real quick story that involves you.
Okay.
Um, actually. This is fast forward to the year 2010. My husband, Barry, passed away in 2010. And I was teaching at the high school. I was teaching music,
Mhm.
and I had the concert choir, and I had rhythm singers. It was a show choir. I also taught humanities, which brought the arts all together, music and art and literature. And I just loved it. I just had such a passion for teaching these kids, and just felt such a connection with them, and especially my rhythm singers. There were about 20 of them, and your two children were both in the group
Yeah.
at the time. But Barry passed in November. He passed November 14th. We had just done a Veterans Day program
Right.
on November 11th, and the kids had sung Flanders Fields.
Right.
And when Barry passed and you met with me, we worked on some of the funeral arrangements for the funeral service and so on, and everything was settled. But unbeknownst to me, um, you somehow got hold of the song in Flanders Fields, which is a beautiful, moving song. Um, and you rewrote the words
Mhm.
to reflect our lives and what was happening in our lives. And so at the service, all of a sudden I saw my rhythm singers walk in together, and I thought, oh, it's wonderful. It's such support. But I didn't know you brought them up front and they sang this song for me. And it was so touching, so moving. And I just appreciated it so much. I mean, that you were willing to do that, to rewrite the lyrics to that, and for them to practice with them, to come and sing that for me. And it was just such a moving thing. And I felt like I was on the receiving end then.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. I was receiving your creativity in the arts,
Mm.
in a spiritual way too.
Yeah. It was a great thing for me as well, because one, uh, for me, art is healing, and the act of putting into words the feelings of that moment. Barry was a very good friend of mine. um but also giving the kids the opportunity, because they so much wanted to give back to you, Pat. Well, you've heard me say to you too many times probably how much your kids who you've worked with love you, and how they appreciate how you can get a sound out of a group that few people can get. They,
Oh,
they wanted so badly to sing for you, and they just didn't have a song. They didn't have a song. And honestly, this is where your dreams and your visions start coming in.
yeah,
I,
really.
I woke up because my kids were saying we want to sing something for her, and for Mr. Enos, and I woke up and I realized I've heard the song. I heard the song on Veterans Day. We can redo the song. And yeah, I practiced with them, but they didn't need any practice. They did it perfectly the first time they sang it, and that's your group. But it was it's a great example, I think, of how art can heal and can express emotion when words just alone aren't going to do it. So
Right, right, yeah. And with art and healing, that brings to mind this the times today, the rough
Oh,
times we're struggling through with the pandemic, and how I really think people are using their art and their creativity to kind of help keep their sanity. For one thing, they're
yeah.
also showing appreciation to others, all those frontline workers, whether it's going out on a balcony in Italy to sing
Wow.
an aria, or if
Mhm.
it's getting together in Queens. I remember they came out and sang together, and they
Mhm.
banged on the pots and pans to show
Mhm.
appreciation for the healthcare workers. And
Yeah.
there's cottage industries starting up. All this, we've been able to do so much with having our church services online, so that we can experience that even though we're home alone trying to stay safe. So I think the arts have really been so helpful during these tough times.
Yeah, and I think they are keeping us in the mindset of this too shall pass. There is going to be an
Yes,
end to this, and it keeps that hope alive. So
yes,
I could
yes.
that's wonderful. Could not say it any better. And I just appreciate you coming on the conversation this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. And I'm so looking forward to getting back to worshiping together with everyone in person.
Absolutely. Have you played the grand piano we have yet?
I have not.
Ooh, you've got something to
I can't
you'll enjoy
wait.
that.
I might have to sneak in there someday and just play
Just
it to
give me a
myself.
give me a
I'll do that.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. And thank you again, Pat.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.